conspiracies, costumes, and the Confederate Casanova. Booth made his stage debut in 1855 at the Charles Street Theater in Baltimore and rapidly gained fame for his intensity, which critics generously called passion, and his rivals more accurately labeled emotional volatility with good lighting. His star ascended with the velocity of a man who combines moderate talent with immoderate ambition and exceptional cheekbones. Contemporary accounts describe him as a man of polished exterior, pleasing address, highly respectable in every regard, proving that humans have always excelled at confusing good tailoring with good character. He was received into the best circles of society, those circles being, as always, more concerned with manners than morals. In 1860, Booth left Richmond for a tour of the Deep South. His motives? Glory, money, applause. He played the classics, soaked in admiration, and made women swoon in Alabama. And just as the war clouds grew dark, he conveniently returned north in early 1861, hardly the move of a man looking to die for Dixie. He kept acting in Union cities, St. Louis, Boston, New York, offending taste but impressing critics, who praised his energy. He played Brutus, Romeo, and Richard III, men who, like Booth, were well acquainted with betrayal and dramatic exits. And then war broke out. Did Booth join the Confederate Army? No. Was he drafted into the Union ranks? Also no. Now, actors don't get draft exemptions, but spies, actors with backstage passes to the war, do. Booth moved between North and South with suspicious ease. He even had a pass signed by General Grant, which is either an astonishing coincidence or the bureaucratic equivalent of a wink. Booth spoke openly against the Union. He raged publicly about Lincoln, threatened assassination, got arrested in St. Louis for running his mouth. And somehow, this man wasn't permanently locked up and waterboarded. He was promptly released. The wonder is that the Federals failed to trap him. At a time when being merely suspected of disloyalty got you disappeared, Booth openly advocated regicide in taverns. He began referring to Lincoln not as a president, but as a Caesar in need of stabbing. Confederate Agent Booth. By 1863, Booth was supposedly working with the rebel underground. His wartime activities defy all logic for a genuine Confederate operative. He had the drunken habits of a gossiping teenager and the discretion of a marching band. While actual Southern spies moved like shadows through Union cities, Booth conducted his clandestine work by drunkenly boasting in taverns about being a rebel agent. That is not how spycraft works. In breaking secrecy, he violated the cardinal rule, indeed the only rule. The Confederate Secret Service was no joke, calculated, cautious, careful. After all, they were up against a more formidable and better funded Union Secret Service. They infiltrated Washington politics and wormed into Wall Street. The Confederate Secret Service, famously disciplined, would never have trusted this grandstanding loose cannon with a sensitive operation like assassination. Which raises the question of who actually did. Booth's personal behavior didn't help. His temper was volcanic, his pranks vicious. He treated gambling and debauchery like religious sacraments. A feral restlessness possessed him. His moods swung like a saloon door in a tornado. He would argue about the war. When anyone disagrees with him about Lincoln, he would fly into rages. Even his brother Edwin had to put a lock on the family home. Despite this, Booth was a perfect double agent. Actors make excellent spies. They lie for a living, travel constantly, and can charm the pants off anyone not nailed to the floor. Booth had access, looks, charisma, and the Grant-signed paperwork to glide across borders with the grace of a diplomatic deal. He moved across state lines and front lines at will. Booth's actor role made a perfect disguise. It explains how he kept his government connections, his abolitionist fiancée, and his freedom, and being forgiven his wild and tempestuous statements while acting as a Confederate court jester with a loaded pistol. The Lincoln assassination. Worst escape plan ever. Meanwhile, back in the capital, the country was under military occupation. The District of Columbia became a fortress in 1862, swarming with provost marshals with extensive police authority. Lafayette Baker's Paranoia Brigade, the National Executive Police, came into being. This was the birthplace of federal surveillance. Baker's men were everywhere. That the enemy underground posed a deadly menace to Lincoln was a fact well known to Baker. By 1864, conspiracies to murder Lincoln had been open secrets. And yet, somehow, Booth skated. Rebel agents were routinely sniffed out and trampled like autumn leaves. Booth, he was untouched, unbothered, and unseen. A magician with top billing. Even the day of the assassination was absurdly suspicious. Booth visited Vice President Andrew Johnson. Johnson wasn't in. Booth left his calling card, presumably with a little smiley face on it, and left. This is a man who days earlier was ranting in public about stabbing Lincoln. And still, no arrest. At that point, military police didn't need warrants. Secretary of War Stanton could imprison you for looking at him funny. Stanton, in the past year alone, had ordered the arrest of thousands of suspected subversives. But Booth? Nothing. Could it be because Booth worked for them? Which brings us to the final farce. Ford's Theater. Ford's Theater as an assassination venue makes no tactical sense for a genuine Confederate operative. A public venue packed with 2,000 witnesses with little chance of escape. The worst possible place to commit a crime. Unless, of course, your goal wasn't escape. It was theatricality. A grand illusion. A sleight of hand. Distract the nation with a dramatic finale. Pin the whole thing on the Confederacy and one depraved and unstable Confederate actor, and inflame Northern vengeance while quietly erasing the fingerprints of anyone truly responsible. Final verdict: pawn or player. The aftermath tells its own story. A national panic. The immediate implementation of military tribunals and expanded federal powers followed with remarkable swiftness. The entire cast of Our American Cousin arrested. Shows closed. Theater people treated like lepers in leotards. Actors were the new pariahs. Actors nationwide were rounded up as suspected conspirators. Yet not one Booth sibling was arrested. Not Edwin, not Junius. Both popular actors. Not even questioned. In a country rounding up thousands for loose affiliations, the actual family of the assassins strolled away unscathed. Either they were extremely lucky, or someone upstairs had decided they were off limits. As always, it helps to have friends in high places. What emerges is not the portrait of a committed Confederate agent, but of something far more complex. Perhaps an unstable actor manipulated by more powerful forces, or a willing participant in a deeper conspiracy. His protected status, curious relationships, and the theatrical precision of the assassination all suggest Booth was playing a carefully scripted role in history's darkest drama. The official story of a lone Confederate fanatic collapses under scrutiny, leaving us to wonder whether the man who played so many roles on stage saved his most consequential performance for the wings of Ford's Theater.